Hello, everyone. Welcome to Say It with Roz. Today, I want to talk about being prepared food-wise in view of the many things that are going on in our country right now. A lot of people are talking about a lot of things, and there are lots of places to hear about all of the horrible things that are happening. So what I want to talk about today is trying to get yourself prepared food-wise, regardless of what else is going on around us. We all need to eat, right? We all need to try to keep up our health and our strength, to even be able to fight against some of the things that are happening. So I did a video a little while ago talking a little bit about this, but also in view of, the prices of everything is continuing to rise. Unlike what was promised, the cost of eggs and gas and anything else is not going down. It's going up. So, food in the grocery store is continuously going up. So now is the time to try to stock up on things, to fill your cupboards as full as you can, if you can. I know everyone might not be able to do this, but if you can, buy as much stuff as you can right now, especially canned goods. You can never have enough canned goods on your shelf. That includes beans, soup, things like tomatoes, tomato paste, tomato sauce, canned meats like, you can get canned chicken, tuna, salmon, sardines, and I'm sure there are other types of meats too, that you can buy that are in the can. And most of these canned goods have a shelf life of 2 to 3, sometimes even longer years, So it doesn't hurt to buy those things in bulk and put them on your shelf. You also need to have lots of rice and dry beans and pasta on hand. Those things last a long time. And what I do is I put them in mason jars, I take them out of the bags and packages and I put them in mason jars because bugs and things cannot get into those glass jars. Also, make sure you have lots of flour, cornmeal, baking powder, baking soda, yeast, so you can make your own bread if you have to, shortening. Those things have long shelf lives as well, Let's see here. Also, it would be good to have some powdered milk and powdered eggs in your cupboard. I had never thought about powdered eggs before, but from what I understand, you can add water and you can mix that up and you can scramble those eggs just like you would, a regular egg. So it would be good to have something like that on your shelf as well. And I think that stuff lasts a year or two, on your shelf. Now make sure you don't want to let your things spoil. So you need to keep a check on your expiration dates and use things before they expire, because you don't want to end up throwing things out, That's a waste of money as well. But you can, they have all kinds of dried things. They have dried buttermilk, dried sour cream, I mean, dried cream cheese. I mean, I didn't realize they had those types of things, you know, until I went out there searching for some dried milk, you know. So it would be good to have things like that on your shelf. Let's see. If you drink coffee, now is the time to really stock up on your coffee, because from what I understand, coffee prices are going to be going up, you know. They're already high. Coffee is not cheap. But if you can, try to get you at least a year's supply of coffee on hand, you know. It's not going to spoil, because that way you won't be subjected to these high prices, you know, that are most likely going to happen. And maybe by the time you're down to 1 or 2 packages of coffee, maybe things will have improved. Who knows? Okay. Another thing, if you are not already doing so, I would seriously consider growing a garden. Now, I have been gardening for years and years and years, so I have my gardening system down pat, you know. I have grown some of everything that you can grow in a home garden. And that way, too, you won't be totally reliant on buying your produce from the grocery store. And as you have seen, almost everything is being recalled these days, you know. So it's a good idea to grow what you can in your own home garden. And you can do container gardening. You don't have to plow up your yard, and, you know, if you don't want to. And you can grow almost anything in a container too, you know. Big containers, fill it with dirt. You can grow anything. I grew corn in 2 big containers a couple of years ago. And I got me some corn, okay? So, you know, greens, cabbages, carrots, potatoes, tomatoes, beans. I mean, you can grow fruit, you know, if you can. If you've got a yard, you can even grow fruit trees in containers, you know, large containers. We don't know what's down the road. I'm hoping that things don't get as bad as I imagine that they can get. But if they do, it would be good to be able to grow some things on your own, you know. Vegetables and cornbread are good, you know. You can actually survive on those types of things, you know. So, grow a garden. I guarantee you, you won't regret it. And like I said, you don't have to have a plot out in your yard if you don't want to. You can grow it in containers, lots of things. You can even grow watermelon in containers, you know, if you've got the space for those vines to run. I mean, seriously, whatever just about you want to grow, you can grow in a container. Because if with these trade wars being threatened, you know, to take place, we don't know what we might not be able to buy, or what the cost will be if it is available for us to buy. So it's just best to be prepared and to try to help yourself, you know, in situations like that. it's all up to you, you know, all up to you. Like I said, I've been growing a garden for years. Right now I have cabbages and mustard greens and turnip greens and collard greens and celery and some herbs, you know, like dill and oregano and parsley growing out in my garden right now, you know. If nothing else, I can eat me some greens and cornbread. And you also want to have your freezer stocked as well as possible. It would be good to even invest in another smaller or larger freezer if you've got the room for it, you know, to stock up on a lot of meats now so that you won't have to go to the grocery store and buy a basket full of groceries, you know, that might cost you $500 or $600, you know, at a time. So, and just replenish things as you use them. And you can minimize what you're spending at the grocery store. I have 2 small freezers in my home right now that are stocked, you know. Can't hardly put anything else in there, you know. And I didn't just start this. I've actually been food prepping for over a year now. Because it's just best to have some things on hand, you know. Now, you also have to consider, what if you lose your electricity, you know, and you've got all of this food stored in your freezer, you know. You've got to have electricity to keep those things frozen. Now, they'll last for a few days, you know, if you're not continuously opening and closing your freezer. Things can stay frozen for a few days. And even if they thaw out after a few days, if they're still cool enough, you know, you can, you know, they'll be okay, you know, if the electricity comes back on. But it would also be good to invest in some type of generator, you know, or solar-powered energy, you know, that can keep things going. I know during one of the, it was Tropical Storm Burl. My husband and I, we were without power for, I think, 9 days, you know, and we didn't have a generator. And around day 4, one of my sisters who did have electricity let us use their generator. So we were able to save most of the things that were in our freezer, you know, lost things that were in the refrigerator. But so it would be good to have a generator on hand. You know, it'd be good to have one that works on solar as well. Because what if you can't get gas? You just never know, you know. And so that's something else to consider, you know, alternate power in case you lose your electricity. And now what else? Oh, it would be good to learn how to can food, because canned things do not need refrigeration. For the first time ever, I actually canned some meat a few months ago. You know, I ran across these videos on YouTube where people were canning meat, and I was like, wow, I never thought about canning meat before, you know. So I actually did that. You know, I have a large pressure cooker that I bought years and years ago that I really had not used that much, you know. But I actually canned a lot of chicken, little beef, you know, some pork, So I have several jars of canned meat in my cupboard that I did myself, you know. So it's good to know how to do that as well. Especially if, now just say for instance, um, you do lose power and you might have a generator, but you run out of gas and you can't get any more gas, you know. And you've got this freezer full of meat. You can actually fire up that pressure cooker one way or the other. Now, we have a gas stove, so all of the times in the past that we've lost power, we still had our gas stove that we could use. So you could fire up that pressure cooker and start canning that meat so you would not lose everything that you've got in your freezer. You know, if electricity was out for who knows how long, you know, we just never know what's going to happen in the future. But that's another way that you can be prepared. And if you lost your gas, you know, if you couldn't use your gas, you could actually get out in your yard and fire up a pit, you know, a fire pit or barbecue pit or something, and put that pressure cooker on there, and you could still can your meat, okay? But you have to keep in mind too, you've got to have something to build a fire with too. You've got to have wood, you know, or I don't know. We don't have any. We don't use coal, but you know, you've got to have wood. We have a fireplace that burns wood and can burn gas. So we really use wood in our fireplace. So we usually have some wood around, you know, to burn. Plus we've got 3 big trees in our yard, you know. And every time we get those trees serviced, we always keep some of the wood from those trees, you know. But, you know, that's another way that you can be prepared and that you can keep things going and keep from losing, you know, all of your food in your freezer. So those are good things, good to know. I know a lot of you young people probably don't even want to think about doing anything like that, you know, or gardening or anything. But you might want to. You might want to try your hand at that. Like I said, I've been gardening for years. I've been in my house for almost 30 years. And I started a garden as soon as I got here. Of course, I grew up in the country. You know, my mother always had a garden. So gardening was nothing new to me. And I'm so glad that I know how to do that. And you can't beat fresh food out of your garden. It is so different from what you get in the grocery store. I mean, even if I didn't do it to just save money. I did it because I enjoyed it, first of all. You know, it's just in me to want to do something like that. But the taste, the goodness of the food is enough to inspire me to garden. So far, thank God, I've never had a problem going to the grocery store and buying food, but I still love to garden. And it does keep me from buying some things at the grocery store. You know, if I want a cabbage, I don't have to go to the grocery store and get me a cabbage. I can just go out in my garden and harvest me a cabbage. If I want some collard greens, mustard greens, or turnip greens, all I've got to do is go out in my garden and pick them. You know, and you can't beat that kind of freshness. And herbs are expensive. I've always had an herb garden, you know, and they're fresh, you know. So the only thing that I need to really beef up on is fruit. I did have orange tree. I had a nice lemon tree that produced the best lemons, you know, at one time. But the cold killed those things one year, you know. So I don't have an orange tree. I have a lemon tree that I had in a pot for a while that hasn't produced anything. So I finally put it in the ground this fall, actually. So I'm hoping that it takes off. But I do plan in the spring to invest in another lemon tree, an orange tree, and I would like to do peach and pear trees as well. I do have a blueberry bush plant that didn't produce anything this past year. And from what I've read upon it since, I need at least another blueberry plant, you know. That's supposed to be beneficial to have more than one. So I'm going to try to grow some blueberries as well. And I'd like to grow some strawberries as well. So I will be trying to grow more fruit, you know. But anyway, let's see, did I miss anything? Oh, one other thing that would be a good investment. That's a dehydrator. I love my dehydrator. I have dried some of everything. When I first got it, I was looking for things to dry, you know. And those things have most of it has a long shelf life. I still have dried cabbage. You know, freezing cabbage and canning cabbage is not recommended. But dried cabbage, you can add that to your soups and your stews. You can dry onions, you can dry garlic, you can dry your peppers. I made my own red pepper this past summer. My cayenne pepper plant produced a ton of cayenne peppers, so I have my own cayenne pepper powdered and whole peppers, you know. Okra, I have a lot of dried okra. The dried okra is also good for adding to soups and stews, you know. You can dry fruit. You know, I have dried apple slices. I even dried cantaloupe and honeydew melon slices. And boy, they are good to munch on, you know, for a little snack. Tomatoes, you can dry tomatoes. I even made me some tomato powder, you know, that I add to soups and stews, you know, when I want to. What else, man? Your herbs, you know, you can dry your own herbs. These herbs are expensive as hell in the grocery store, I'm telling you, you know. I mean, so things like that, you know, it is good to have a dehydrator. Even if you don't grow a garden, you can get these things from the grocery store fresh, you know, and dry them, you know, and put them on the shelf instead of letting them go bad in the refrigerator, you know, which I've done a lot of. Celery, I've dried celery, you know, bell pepper, whatever. And it will last a long time on your shelf, dry. Yes, there are ways, my people. There are ways. You just have to do it. You just have to do it. And you can save yourself a ton of money by doing those things. Buy things when they're on sale. Go to the farmer's market. You know, come home and dry that stuff. Or can it if you want to. You know, you can can fruits and vegetables too. But that's what I wanted to talk about today, you know. Just being prepared food-wise. making sure that you've got some things in your cupboard that can sustain you regardless of what the prices are in the grocery store. If you get enough stocked up, you won't have to buy very much from the grocery store. You know, things like milk and eggs. You can even dry cheese. You know, I bought a big bag of cheese from Sam's, Monterey Jack cheese. I didn't realize the bag was this big. I ordered it online and had it delivered. Man, that big bag of Monterey, I'm like, what in the hell am I going to do with all this cheese, you know? So what I did was I packaged up some and I put it in the freezer because cheese lasts forever in the freezer, I'm telling you. I have all kinds of cheese in my freezer. But I also dried a bunch of cheese that I have got sitting on my shelf. Yes, dried cheese. You can use your dehydrator to dry cheese. Yes. You can also dry eggs if you want to do that. I haven't tried drying the eggs. I did buy the silicone, you know, things to put in the dehydrator, you know, with a rim around it so that you can pour eggs in there and other liquid things and dry it. But I haven't done that yet. I just usually try to, right now, what I'm trying to do is keep at least 3 dozen of eggs in my refrigerator, you know. And when I get down to 1 or 2 dozen. Bunny Jones. I'm going to ignore that for the moment. I'll call them back. But, you know, you can dry eggs too. So, you can, I'm sure you can probably dry your own milk. You know, you just got to have the right kind of liners for your dehydrator to do that. So, I know some of this might seem over the top for some of you, but we don't know what's coming down the line. We don't. We do not. And even if nothing extraordinary happens, just think, your cupboards are full. You don't have to run to the grocery store every week. And if you do, it's only for things like eggs and milk, you know. You can even freeze